ES Audio.
The Evening Standard Rugby Podcast with Lawrence Dallaglio.
Hello and welcome to our second episode this week. The team is back together. Cassar's back from France. How are you?
Bonjour, ça va?
Yeah.
That's literally the limit of my French. Although, wait, I can say, où est la bibliothèque?
Have you had Duolingo? Have you downloaded it then or something? Have you been on the app learning?
No, I've just been listening out there and I can order croissants and, well done me, je voudrais un croissant s'il vous plaît. Shall I go on?
Look at that. That's brilliant.
Oh, excuse me, I went to get your croissants this morning.
You did, and it was a very nice croissant. Were you making it for being 20 minutes late picking me up?
Okay.
Is that what that was about? But thank you anyway. Nice to see you both. How are you, Steve?
I'm very well, sorry. We haven't
Good.
seen you since he wore his Welsh shirt, have we?
I know, I was so impressed with that.
Do you know what? I really enjoyed that, Wales-Australia. It was amazing. They were brilliant, weren't they, Wales?
Yeah,
really,
they were good.
Really good.
Oh, you are turning Welsh.
Well,
Oh my gosh.
listen, I've always had passion and pride.
Just not for Wales.
Yeah, just,
But you do
just
now.
not quite as gobby.
Well, I appreciate the support, Lawrence. Thank you. I'm glad I've brainwashed
He actually
you. Well
promised to
done.
learn some Welsh next time you were in, so you're going to have to teach him something.
Diolch. Do you know what that means?
Diolch.
Multilingual I am today. Anyway, it's nice to see you both. Steve, how are you?
I'm good, Sarah. Very good.
Good.
Yes, it's
What have you been up to?
Yeah, busy weekend with the little ones as ever. Dancing, swimming, football, you name it. They've been doing it, and a little bit of rugby.
Uber
but-
driver then, yeah?
Uber driver, exactly. Yeah, as you know, no DIY though. That's the one thing that I stay away from.
Well, there's a link for you,
Yeah,
Steve.
there you go. I did
You're
that on
taking mine
purpose.
now. Shall
Seamless.
Seamless. Let's introduce our special guest then, shall we? He's been on our television screens for over 30 years. I have to read this out actually because there's a long list of things I need to read out. So, presenting obviously a whole range of shows, including BBC's most watched and longest running primetime factual series, DIY SOS, The Big Build, which can I say I love, and it's on our series link at home, one of the only programmes that's on our series link. And he also has a series currently on Channel 5 called Amazing Railway Adventures. Not content with just presenting duties, he's also written a screenplay, a cookbook, and released an album. Why did I not know that?
Yeah, how about we just...
Well, it sort of slipped by at about 38 in the charts. And, although
38
I
higher
do
than
have an
we've been.
iTunes number one.
Do you?
Yeah, it was a bit of a joke thing. When I did I'm a Celebrity, they put one of the songs off the album, and one of the radio stations decided to get it to number one, and they did. Which is a bit of a joke, obviously, but now when I'm introduced in America, I'm introduced as an iTunes number one artist, so
I love that.
I don't care.
You know who he is by now, right? I don't even have to introduce him, Nick Knowles. How are you, Nick?
Do you know what? I'm very good, thank you very
Good.
much. I'm just in the middle of all these travels for the railway series, and there's an adventure series I'm shooting at the same time, which is great, which is taking me places like Mongolia and Death Valley and Patagonia. So having lots of fun with that, and then trying to get hold of the rugby games wherever I am in the middle of Mongolia or wherever.
So they want me to download it there.
Yeah, it's tough, but
Because you are a massive rugby fan, aren't you?
huge my whole life. I played, and not to the standard of Lolly, but I played and loved it, and played in this country, in Australia, and various other places around the world. Once one game in Samoa, a long time.
Position?
Flanker.
Flanker. I would have said flanker, actually.
All
I would
action.
have said flanker,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
action.
You wouldn't.
I would have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have said flanker.
Yeah, I was a bit bigger up top and a bit narrow around the waist in those days. And,
Weren't we all?
And
Yeah.
reasonably fast for a reasonably big unit. So that kind of helps.
It is good to see you, but I am slightly disappointed that you haven't come in a high-vis jacket, like knocking down walls for us.
I think people do expect that kind of thing. I do no DIY ever. It's just
You're
not,
more of the outsource, you're sort of project lead, TV lead.
yeah, you're mostly walking around pointing and talking about it. To be honest, that's
It's a bit like my DIY skills, really.
Same.
Do you know what I used to do? I used to be so enthusiastic, pretty much most men at home, and take things apart and then never be able to put them back together again.
Yeah, we had a big history of that in our family, actually. My dad once actually took the family heirloom clock apart to show me how time works, and then could never get it back together.
Time stood still.
I promise you, that's me.
Yeah. That's a really weird thing, actually. And when I was younger, working on building sites, my family were all sort of vaguely involved in construction, and apart from my dad, who was in the armed forces. But it was a really good way to keep fit. So when I went to Australia, I used to work on a building site, and hod carrying up and down a ladder all day, carrying bricks is a great way to keep your fitness up, and much better than actually time spent on a training field. Yeah. So.
And have you managed to, during this World Cup, because I know you've been to a couple of World Cup finals?
I went to the one obviously at Twickenham, but also managed to get my brother to the one where we lost to South Africa in the final in Paris as well. That was a problem getting tickets, to be honest. But when we look, I don't want to bring it up because it must be. Although you didn't play in the game,
I was on the bench.
So
I played the last 20 minutes. It's my last game of international rugby. You could have phoned me out. I'd have sorted you out a couple of tickets.
Do you know, I did try, but ringing a few people like you. Yeah. So that was when we lost in that game, in the first game against South Africa, my brother was so depressed. He and I have gone to games. Since he was 19 and I was 12, he would take me along to all the matches, and so then when I got the opportunity to take him to World Cups and various other things, then we did. But I said to him, I'll get us there. I will get, if we get to the final, I'll get us there. Never expecting to
so
get
you didn't
there.
come out you didn't come out to Sydney then in 03, no?
I got offered a ticket for that. I got offered a ticket last minute to get out because TV people offered me a ticket to go out with 3 days' notice, and I could, but I couldn't get one for my brother, so I didn't go. And we always went everywhere together.
What's your brother's name?
John.
John.
And you've watched obviously this World Cup. It's been a tough watch as an England fan. I mean, I know we've won 3 out of 3.
But there's so much of rugby is a tough watch at the moment. I mean, I love rugby, but there's 2 things wrong with it at the moment. One is that it's all about territory and flat line defence, which means basically half the game spent kicking the ball backwards and forwards. So it's like aerial ping pong. And the other thing is that games are being decided by referees. Now, you may or may not know.
You never rant about referees.
Well, you may or may not know.
I always found it easier if I refereed, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, well, I remember you helping them as much as you could.
Well, we sat you two apart because obviously you upset the Welsh with your comments.
Not for the first time.
No, you've got a history of that.
I've got a history of, there is currently a Welsh fatwa on me. I can't cross the borders. I've got family over there, which makes it even worse. They all disown me when this happens.
Do you start to have a little go on social media after you've had about 5 pints of Guinness?
That was,
how do you wait for it to...
That was the first time when I criticised Nigel Owens.
Oh, he was really upset.
I thought he'd take it as a joke, but he really upset. He went on Jiffy's show, dressed as me, with a hard hat with Nick Knowles written on it.
I was actually on that show when that happened. I didn't laugh, Nick. Obviously, I just sat there.
Yeah, no, obviously, but that was a 5 point injection from me on social media, but he and I have made up since, so that was all good. And then I got sort of forgiven by everybody. And then in the Fiji game, I criticised the ref not sending someone to the bin on the Welsh with a multiple infringements on the line.
You can be the coach of South Africa.
But you weren't the only one who did that.
No, we coach of South Africa and criticise the referee and you get a 2-match ban. So, you're in the sin bin for two matches.
But you see, what I like to do is I criticise the ref, and everybody in Wales thought I was criticising Wales, so I got about 2 or 3 days of really vehement stuff as well, and some quite heavy stuff, verging on death threats and things like this.
Well, like for the Fiji comments or for the Fiji comments? Oh, really?
And then I let it die down, and then after about 2 or 3 days, I said, I put a post up saying, the referee has just issued his final warning to the Welsh on their own try line. and the final warning is expected about the time of the release of the 3rd Avatar movie. So
just to start it all up again.
So what's the take on the World Cup? I mean, what's been your view so far?
There's amazing stuff. I mean, obviously the South Africa Ireland game was a hell of a set too. I was slightly worried by the Irish doing a lap of honour afterwards and celebrating as if it was a win, because it's only a group game, and I think the South Africans...
I think they were just clapping their fans, though, weren't they? They weren't celebrating the win.
But my worry is a bit like getting a bit... I mean, it was a win, and it was a good win, and it lays down a good marker.
Do you know why? The whole of the stadium was full of Irish fans.
Well, I know.
Yeah, I think it was more about celebrating the fact that so many Irish had rocked up.
In 03, we had South Africa in our group, and it was a hard game. We were more worried about that game than any other game of rugby I've ever been involved in. And they were a young South African side. We beat them 23-3 or whatever it was, and woke up and the paper said, "Is that all you've got?" or something, with a picture of Johnny Wilkinson. But
for me, when we lost the last World Cup final, when Sinclair got knocked out in the first few minutes, it sort of ruined our game plan. We should have had a plan B, but we didn't. And then South Africa won. I was really, really depressed about that until I heard the interview with Khaleesi afterwards, where they said to him, the bloke said to him, "You must have dreamed of this when you were a kid." And he said, "When I was a kid, I dreamed of getting something to eat by the end of the day."
He's a great chap.
Oh, he's extraordinary, man.
He
Isn't he? Everything he says
man.
ever is
do you know what? South Africa, actually, they lost that first game to New Zealand in Japan, and then they sort of went under the radar. They didn't actually have to play that well to win that World Cup, I don't think, personally. I mean, they smashed England in the final, but England had Australia, then New Zealand, and then they would have had to play South Africa, which is a really, really tough thing to do. What have you made of France?
Well, the problem with France is they're an amazing side, and on their day, the great thing about France is the Kiwis are terrified of them. It's amazing. Every time I've spent time in New Zealand, they're like, we're going to win the World Cup, we're going to win unless we meet France. They're terrified of France. It's so in their heads that they can lose to an ordinary French side on a good day. So, although they worry me now because the New Zealand are looking good. I mean, Dupont's obviously a massive difference. I presume he's going to play with some kind of face mask.
Les Miserables.
But he's back in training by all accounts. So, I mean, again, stupid. What the hell were you risking him for in a Namibia game?
I mean, he should have come off at half-time.
Well, we've got a similar thing this weekend, really, haven't we, with England? I mean, do you play your full-strength team against Samoa, or do you rest the players who are important?
It's hard because you need continuity as well in a World Cup.
You don't know who your full-strength team is. You don't know who your best team is.
That's the problem, isn't it, at the moment? Yeah, so, but I've really enjoyed some of the other games as well. Games like, Georgia, Portugal.
Yeah.
That was a great game.
I love watching
Great
Portugal
game.
play. I genuinely.
And some of the other sides aren't playing. When it seems to me it gets to the point now where, if you go back to that refereeing decision, everything is decided on. And was there a decision yesterday? There was a clear out, and you looked at it and you thought there's nothing wrong with that clear out at all. But the refs, another guy like held in a tackle, not held in a tackle. All of these tiny things now, and it's such a complex game.
The difficulty you have with social media is that the game is being analysed. Anything that commentators or referees or TMOs miss, someone's picked up on social media and it's already out there.
Yeah, but it's our duty. Look, I take a slightly different view on that. Like everyone was having a go at me, you shouldn't argue with the ref in rugby. The players and the coaches can't argue with the ref, and that's really important. That's an important rule. They've just got to accept it and get on with it. That's fine. But I think it relies on people like yourselves who are involved with the game a lot, and those of us that love the game, to point out when there are ridiculous inconsistencies. There was a head-to-head contact yesterday that came as a guy jumped out to catch a ball and landed directly face-to-face. When was it? It wasn't yesterday. It was a game I was watching yesterday. I was catching up. Anyway, it was a face-to-face contact, almost identical to Curry's, and they decided it wasn't even worth a card. And Curry gets a 2-match ban. You can't have that inconsistency across the game because you'll have someone sent off in a World Cup final for something they haven't been sent off before. And that's my worry for the game. I love the game so much that to actually have it decided by referees. Also, the cult of referee. I mean, Nigel...
I love the game so much to have it decided by referees. That's a sentence. Who else is going to decide
it? That's my worry. No, but it should be decided by the players, by open play by the players, by a bit of skill, by creativity, not by somebody making a decision on 3 points on offence at the ruck, or
And by the way, we've all got homes and bars to go to after a game, and games go on for like hours now because we've got
homes and bars. Which ones come first to you?
Well, bars on the way home, don't we? But we've got injuries, and then the amount of decisions that are taking the right, huge amounts of time. It is tricky.
Are you going to get out there for a game then, or not? You're just too busy?
No, I've looked at it over and over again to see if I could get there any way I could get there, and
we can sort your brother out a ticket this time,
Yeah, he won't go without me though. Same as I won't go without him.
That's really cute.
You met my brother many times at the events when we bumped into.
Well, you're going to be the expert on sorting out the travel by train, surely, aren't you? You must know the back of your hand, no?
Weirdly, television doesn't work like that. I don't book all my own travel.
I do love a train ride though.
We all have a whinge over here about the train system. You've now been on nearly every train system in the world. Well,
they're exactly the same. Everywhere we go, everybody whinges about the trains. They do. I mean, there are certain countries where, like Japan, where everything runs exactly on time.
Yeah.
But I've just got back from Croatia. That was the last short one that I did, about 4 or 5 days. And I was saying what an amazing journey it is through the Mount Julian Alps and all the way down. Then you end up on the Adriatic, a split, which is beautiful and historic. And you've got Diocletian's palace there to walk around, which is stunning, and the ruins of the city. So there's all this stuff to look at. And then we get out on a boat to do this finish at the end. And I said to the boat captain that we were on the trains, he went, rubbish trains. Did you have a terrible time? And I was like, you sit there and watch the whole countryside go by. It's beautiful, really beautiful.
Were you train spotter when you were younger then? How did this love of trains come about then?
You being that.
We grew up in Southall, so you know the young people you work with now.
Be after a first train out of there, mate. To be fair.
Yeah. So the kids that you work with, inner city kids that you work with now, I saw you on TV the other day talking about getting kids and directing their anger and the violence and discipline and all that kind of stuff. That, for me, was rugby when I was growing up, because from that, weirdly, I went to Gunnersbury School from an estate in Southall. But up the road was a big shunting yard, and there was 5 of us kids, and my dad, to give my mum some peace, used to take us all up when we were little up to the stand on the bridge and watch all the trains go by. So I think that's where it started.
We need a travel show. So
we do need
that'd be a piece of us, wouldn't it? We'd like that.
We would enjoy that.
Montenegro, maybe, sort of winding our way through.
Because I was going to ask you this, obviously you're travelling around now, you're enjoying that, and you've been to Italy on this trip?
the Vesuvius to Etna, that was a beautiful trip.
Nearly died. Nearly died. Up in that, what was it, that gyrocopter?
In a gyrocopter. There was a moment when we were up in the air and we hit the lightning storm and we were being thrown all over the place and almost hit the trees on the way down and then almost hit the mountainside. And I kind of decided that was it. I was not getting down again. And I had this lovely thought. I thought, well, my 9-year-old boy will be obviously very sad about it, but what a great story for him to tell his mates. His dad died in a gyrocopter over Mount Etna.
That wasn't going to be my question, Nick.
Went down in a blaze of glory. Can't say that, can you?
Yeah.
You can't. But my question was going to be a rugby-based one again, because you have stated in the past, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you don't think Italy should be in the Six Nations. Am I right?
I only recently said that I think they have that, yeah.
Okay, so given what's happened over the last week against New Zealand, so do you think that they should be replaced by a Georgia or a Portugal or a Japan, or do you just think it should be...
Well, if you're going to keep it at Six Nations, I don't think they've done enough to over the last few years, I don't think they've done enough to maintain. They haven't beaten anybody regularly enough.
Although, sadly, that New Zealand game, I think, is a bit of an anomaly because actually they played some really good rugby in the Six Nations. But if you put Georgia in there, I mean, I know they beat Wales, didn't they, recently?
As did Italy.
Yeah. But would they have the same
I don't
success?
know, but you've got to give them the opportunity. I mean, Italy. How long have Italy been in the Six Nations now? 15 years?
But I do think we're going to
at some stage they've got to show some improvement.
Nations Cup, I think, over the year, so that there should be some sort of ability to get into that tournament.
I agree. I mean, you look at Argentina, who came into the Southern Hemisphere tournament, and they've actually, in that time, they've improved to actually beat New Zealand in New Zealand, and they've beaten Australia. They've beaten
It did take them a while, though.
It did take them a while, but
and that's
I don't think they've been in it any longer than Italy has. And Italy haven't beaten England or France.
It's the argument for Japan as well, because Japan actually have done brilliantly until 2019. Since then, they've only won 2 games, but they've been playing really good opponents, haven't they? So
yes, and they haven't been playing much.
No, I like the idea of maybe doing like a plate competition within the competition, so that because at the moment I think there's too big a gap between games. So if you had because Football World Cup, you have games every 2, 3, 4 days. So if you had 2 competitions within the World Cup, so you had the Tier 1 nations playing for the World Cup, the Tier 2 nations playing for a plate competition. We've all said how good the games are when they play each other.
Well, they are going to increase the number of teams playing in the World Cup, I think, for the next tournament. And I mean, poor old Namibia, 4 games in 18 days.
Yeah, that's
that's horrific.
Yeah.
4 games in 18 days.
But once every 4 years isn't going to help them develop. You've got to get these nations into games, and I think you need to expand the Southern Hemisphere. What's it called? The Tri-Nations, 4 nations.
Rugby Championship. In fairness to World Rugby, they have spent a lot of money on Pacifica. They spent a lot of money in Japan. They're propping up, the MLR and getting these structures, set up. It is kind of coming through.
Yeah, but it's still the case, isn't it, that when like Fiji play at Twickenham, they get something like like £20,000 for playing there, and if New Zealand play there, they get $3 million.
Yeah, but with all due respect, we couldn't even fill Twickenham for England Fiji a week before the World Cup. So
you might after this World Cup, because they've been pretty impressive.
They have been pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Well, we might. No, I mean, I'm not saying that was down to England, not down to Fiji.
Not down to the opposition.
Who have we got then in the? Do we know? Has it worked out yet?
No, but we've won. We know we've won the group. England have won the group.
Fiji need a bonus point to finish second, so England will play Fiji.
Before
quarterfinal.
We get on to the World Cup, I just want to ask you one question. Tin hats on, everyone, because I know you're going to have an opinion on it, because we've seen a lot of turmoil, Nick, in English rugby over the last, 12 months, and now the latest announcement that last season's championship winners, Jersey Reds, they've also ceased trading. So, as a fan, what do you think needs to happen, or, I don't know, change to give the game, I suppose, more appeal, really? I know that World Cup is great and, it generates a lot of attention, but I
think that you need some more realism at the RFU, and you need some people that actually have some knowledge and understanding of grassroots into the RFU. I thought it was astounding that they wouldn't allow Ealing Trailfinders in when they won, because that is a rugby side that is based in the community, in a multicultural community, and they wouldn't let them in because the stand wasn't good enough. I think those are the people you should be allowing in, so they can bring in bigger gates, and then they can expand once they get in. And actually, there's a club that stayed financially sensible by not spending ridiculous money on stadiums.
I think if I'm honest with you, they're still in business because they didn't go into the Premiership, because they don't want to go into the Premiership, because they know it put them out of business. And Jersey, but the same, Jersey didn't go up because they probably knew that they couldn't afford to go up. But there's clubs in the Premiership who can't afford to be there anyway. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I don't know quite how we got to the stage and how the RFU managed to allow the whole thing. I mean, there should be some financial oversight. The idea that they've allowed this thing to get, was it 600 million in debt?
Well, the other thing is that if it's financial oversight, it needs to be independent. because with all due respect, otherwise it's called a cartel.
You can't have the clubs making the decision.
Well, DCMS are the second biggest stakeholder in Premiership rugby. I mean, they've lent every club between 10 and 15 million, so they're invested to the tune of 135 million. 3 clubs have gone down the Swannies, so they've already lost 35 million. And CVC have invested 250 million in whatever it was, in 15% of Premiership rugby. And 3 clubs have gone bust.
What's being done now, though? After last season, and now like Jersey Reds have gone under. Like, what's been put in place, like recently?
I've got no idea
happened?
because the only time I see anyone from the RFU is when Steve Borthwick's doing an interview, and you might see him just behind in tracksuits. I mean, literally, as a Wasp fan, I can't even tell Wasp fans what league they'll be playing in next season, whether there'll be promotion or relegation, whether there'll be any chance of getting back into the Premiership. I mean, it
actually makes me really sad.
Nick's right. Then we need some leadership.
This is my thing. I mean, I love, Bill Beaumont is was a great servant for England, a huge, lovely bloke and all the rest of it. But the fact of the matter is that under his watch and under this current RFU's watch, there's a lot has gone wrong.
Well, Bill's in World Rugby, isn't he? He's chairman at the moment.
But that's all of it. I mean, he's come from this. And the thing is, you've got to... we've got refereeing that is inconsistent in our World Cup, which is our main game, where people are going, I don't understand what the rules are anymore.
It's become very complicated, isn't it? I mean, the thing is that we're fighting for people's attention around the world, whether it's travel shows, sport, whatever it might be. You can't have a game that goes on for so long. And
well, that's nonsensical and almost impossible to get into unless you've actually been grown up with it. I mean, me trying to explain to my fiancée the basic rules of it so that she can understand what's going on, it's like almost impossible.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
You're batting. She came in this morning, very beautiful.
She is, isn't she? Yes. Yeah. She's luckily very short-sighted as well, so that's worked out very well for me.
Live on air.
Yeah. But she loved. She actually enjoyed coming along to Twickenham. I don't know where we get with this, but I think if you look at the Premiership, the lack of oversight, the lack of control, the lack of making sure that there's financial fair play going on, it's if that was a CEO of any other business, you'd be out on your ear, and so would all the board as well.
England's fans are getting shortchanged because if you're a club, you're turning up to your club and only seeing Maritoji in 12 or 13, if you're lucky, out of 22 games. And if you're turning up for England, you're not seeing the best out of Maritoji. So they haven't got it right at the moment.
And is that going to get worse now? Because there was something in the papers this week, wasn't there, that they're going to do a system where they're going to, the 20 England players, England are going to manage them a bit like the Irish.
It's the same in Wales. I mean, Ryan James was telling me it's unbelievably tough in Wales to try, my cousins who used to do the training at Merthyr Rugby, the Welsh lads there, and they used to say there used to be like 5 kids sat on the hill drinking and smoking and watching, and 30 kids playing rugby. Now there's like 12 kids playing rugby and 25 sat on the hill smoking and drinking. And that's the difficulty. We're losing the kids. Financially, it's a mess. The rules are a mess. And this is the game that I grew up absolutely loving and obsessed with, and it's difficult to defend at the moment or difficult to promote.
Who's your team, by the way?
I was just going to ask that.
I don't say.
I read it was Gloucester.
I know.
No, I'll tell you why. Because where I live, I used to live in Chiswick.
Cotswolds, so it must
and
be,
now I live in the Cotswolds.
West Country way.
Well, there's 4 around me, so there's Bath, Bristol, Gloucester, and Worcester are all really close, and Exeter's only just down the road. So I tend to go wherever there's a game where I'm working and I've got a day off. So if once I say where I am, once I say who I support, I'm in deep trouble. So no, I don't. Although my little boy turned up for the first time, my 9-year-old turned up to watch Bath Saracens at the end of last season, and basically they plied him with chocolate, and they've insisted he can have as much chocolate as he wants if he comes back. Because Bath beat Saracens that day.
I'd have you down as like Gloucester, I think, for you. I think that's
yeah. You got.
He's saying nothing.
You got to have a team. You got to have a team.
Nick, who's going to win the World Cup? Do you think?
Oh, yeah, it's a big call, isn't it? South Africa seems supremely confident, and they do have amazing spirit within the side, within each other. Their togetherness is incredible. All these stories about, it's an amazing story about Pimpy not having anybody's face to put on his back of his shirt and all those kind of things. You see them in together, the way they talk together and they support each other.
The coach is absolutely bonkers, isn't he? He's had a pop at Ireland again. I mean, he doesn't mind playing the mind games, does he?
Yeah. Mind you, the Kiwi coach had a go at Ireland the other day as well, didn't he? So,
Ireland and South Africa.
Do you get told what to do on TV by traffic light signs or not?
No, well...
Because I know I need to be. Can someone give me a red, green?
One of the things you'll know about a TV, and you've been very good at over the years, is authenticity, just being yourself and saying whatever you feel at the time, and not being over directed by people, so that people know who you are, whatever you're in. People who try and please the directors all the time, you're somebody slightly different on each thing you do, and the audience never knows who you are. So I tend to treat directors and directions as guidelines in which to operate around. Not really.
Rassie wouldn't like you then, Nick.
been a brilliant
Rassie
rugby
wouldn't like you.
So, did we get an answer? So, South Africa good.
South Africa good. I have to say New Zealand are starting to look very good, although I took the mickey on social media because they're all very excited about winning over Italy, and if that's what makes them excited, then they're yeah, but that's the great thing about rugby, is getting stuck in a bit of banter either way. I think England are building in a very dull way, but in a very successful way. Wales are actually got some spirit about them. Yeah. I'd love it to be Ireland because I'd love a Northern Hemisphere side to win again. We only had one Northern Hemisphere side win ever, and that was your lot.
Yeah, that's what I've said. If we get a new name on the trophy, I'll be happy because it means that either Ireland or France have won. England aren't going to win this one.
I can't see the thing about the French is I can't see the French stringing. Was it how many games do you have to win 8, 9 in a row? France will always fall out with each other.
That France have only lost once in the last 5 years in Paris.
You love your stats.
I mean, it's a fact. I couldn't believe it because I thought that they lose all the time.
But they'll self-implode. They always do. I mean, look at that when they beat New Zealand, then lost to us beat New Zealand in the quarterfinal in Cardiff,
I think they're much better.
and then lost to us.
I got to be honest, like in that opening match in Paris that we were in, when they ran out, I thought there's too much pressure on them here because honestly, the stadium was. I've never experienced an atmosphere like it. Right, it's just they're not going to beat New Zealand. I genuinely thought they were going to like you were saying, self-implode, but I don't know now. They just rode that, and there's so much support for them out there. I kind of think that they might.
Ireland play the best rugby without a doubt in terms of their cohesion and the way that they. But it's a power game at the moment, and the two biggest teams in the world are France. They're forwards, France and South Africa. They turn on the power. There's no other side that can compete with them, really.
My worry is that South Africa, I think, are clever enough not to have shown their full hand against Ireland in that game. Yeah, I don't think they played. I think they played. That was what the whole 7-1 thing was. We're going to batter the life out of you, and we're not going to show what we're going to do.
It's ironic, isn't it? They lost the Lions series to a drop goal from Jerry Guscott. They won the Lions series to a penalty from Mornay Stain.
Yeah,
they've won numerous World Cups with the goal kicker.
Yeah.
And now they've obviously airlifted Pollard straight back in, haven't they? So
yeah.
That was always going to happen.
Have they lost the scrum half now? Because they had 4 in the squad. One's going to put his hamstring soon, aren't they? Hey, Razzie.
You're so cynical.
Maybe you'll give him a little red traffic light.
Nick, if there was one rugby game that you could have played in, because I've read that you said you would have given everything up to play for England just
I'd
once.
have given up my entire TV career to put on an England shirt once and run out to Twickenham.
But which game would you have wanted to play in for England? I mean, there's an obvious one with a man sat here, but
probably 91 when we lost, or 2007 when we lost.
Yeah. That one, because I would have made the difference. I would have scored, so it would have been...
Done. Well, we'd have taken that.
I'd have loved to have done it. Just the idea of... And when I go to rugby matches now, it's not just going to watch a sport. I get there, and as soon as I walk in the stadium, my heart starts to beat. And then when they start playing the music before the teams run out, I'm literally... my heart's thumping in my chest.
An English fan, but Welsh, really. We need...
He ain't Welsh.
We need
Are you
more...
No.
But I've got Welsh family,
I know
actually.
you said that.
Over in Herwine, or Irwin, as
And
the kids now call
but
it.
you even say Hirwine like
Herwine,
it's meant to be said. Hirwine.
Yeah, but my aunt and uncle used to say it that way. But the kids now, their grandchildren now call it Irwin.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's Hirwine. I
know that area very well.
I didn't know you had...
Plus, one of my best buddies is Rodri Williams, who Rodders, who everybody knows Rodders.
Yeah.
Who's in Qatar for his own safety these days.
and everyone else's safety as well, by the way.
Yeah, he's still a best bud.
I've not seen him for a long time.
Do you get asked to play in charity matches? You must do.
Do you know what? I'm a patron involved with Rugby for Heroes out of Gloucester with Mike Tyndall, so we have that charity together, where they laughingly play friendlies with like an ex-South African international team under Schmidt and people who turn up. And the idea of it being a friendly is ridiculous because they get out there and start battering each other straight away. So the last time I played, I'm 61 now, last time I played was when I was 56 in a game. Yeah. 56 I played when I was 56 years old. I played sevens, beach sevens, which was a really ridiculous
beach
idea.
Sevens, wow.
Which is the first time I ever saw you, by the way.
Yeah.
First time I saw you
1993.
Murrayfield, sevens, the inaugural sevens, he was in the team that won it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we won it because Andy Harriman was in the team.
Exactly. Well, he did do pretty well.
Yeah.
And then, do you remember in the semi-final, you were supposed to play? I think you were supposed to play either Australia or somebody else, but they they swapped it around to play Fiji because the Scots did not want to hand over the cup they just made to the English.
Do you know what was it? It was an amazing tournament. We managed to win it. Won the first ever inaugural World Cup sevens, and Scotland lost to Japan in the bowl final. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing, wouldn't it?
You can't say that.
That's what a whole load. Now I can't cross the border to Scotland.
All the Scots have just turned off.
Yeah. Well,
No, come on, we love Scotland. Not as much as Wales, but we love them.
that's it, and they've got a great side at the moment. I feel really bad for them in this World Cup because they've been planted in such a tough group, and I think any other group they've got out of,
Has there been a tougher World Cup group than that? I don't think there has.
I don't think so.
Ever.
I don't think so. But they've still got a chance if they beat Ireland, That's a tough ask by anybody. But that Scottish side has real talent running right
And
the way
there
through
are
it.
so many permutations we will go through of that group now. Should we go through the groups quickly then?
Go on
the
then.
final
Yeah,
games,
go on
yeah? Okay, well, look, should we go pool A? We'll do Pool A first. So France, they're going to top the group, right? Assuming they don't lose to Italy. Or even if they do lose and
They're
still
not gonna
get
lose to
2
Italy.
losing bonus points. Okay, I'm just putting it all out there.
Is this the first World Cup style where we've had a Northern Hemisphere team topping every single group?
It is.
Wow.
And could be all Northern Hemisphere semi-finals, so which would be even better.
Wales, Ireland, that could be a real thing in the semi-final.
Anyway, we've just got ahead of the rest.
Sorry, yeah,
Group
anyway,
games,
okay.
New Zealand.
So we're not seeing anyone basically but France topping that pool, right? New Zealand runners up.
Yeah, you're tuning in to me. New Zealand, Uruguay to this week.
Yeah, I'll be watching that one. Okay, let's move on to Pool B then. Okay, so are we ready for this? So Scotland have got to beat Ireland and deny the Irish a bonus point in order to finish second on the head-to-head rule. But stay with me, with South Africa topping the pool, okay? So if Ireland get a bonus point and Scotland do not, Ireland will top the pool on the head-to-head rule over South Africa. You still with me?
Yeah.
Do you want me to go on?
Yeah.
A Scotland bonus point win without Ireland getting anything from the game would see them qualifying second place behind South Africa, and the Springboks would finish top on the head-to-head rule. And if Scotland win, both teams get a bonus point, then they join South Africa on 15 points, and it's the points difference that will determine the top spot in
So,
Pool
okay,
B.
so if Scotland beat Ireland but without a bonus point, Scotland still don't go through. That's what's going to happen.
They have to score 4 tries. Basically.
That's what's going to because Scotland have this amazing ability to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
But not against Ireland.
But
though.
your
It's been-
husband is in the coaching team in Ireland. They're the number one side in the world. They've only lost 2 out of the last 35.
I don't talk to him about
what's going to
rugby.
happen because they're going to want to win their group. They're not going to want to come second. So they win their
Depends.
group.
They might look at the group and go, "Who are we playing against?"
Well, New Zealand if they win their group.
But it's New
Well,
Zealand and France.
then wouldn't you rather come second? I'd rather play France at the moment than New Zealand.
Oh,
In France?
Jeopardy. I'm not sure you
Yeah.
can play that
Not
way,
much,
though, can
yeah.
you? No, I think you just got to win your games.
I don't think Scotland and Ireland like each other anyway. I mean, obviously countries do, but I'm not sure. I think there's a bit of beef there.
No,
There is, isn't there?
because there is a way of them playing to a result that puts them both through and South Africa out.
Oh, they
Yeah,
won't do
that's
that.
not-
That's
not
too
gonna
complicated.
happen.
That's not
Yeah,
going to happen.
but
It's a nice idea, though, and couldn't happen to
it's a
nicer people than the
nice
South Africans. So.
idea.
Some sort of Far East betting syndicate idea. I
Having
think.
sat in an Afrikaans crowd at a rugby match, that would.
Okay, so I think Ireland are going to try and win that game.
Okay, so
Ireland will win
you're
that
going to
game.
say Ireland.
I don't think they'll put out a strong team, though.
Do you not?
I think Scotland might sneak a victory. Here's a prediction for you. I think Scotland might sneak a victory, but not by the bonus point. So they'll have won, but they won't go through.
I know you're going to be away for the next 3 weeks because you've got this TV show, but we want to hear you on social media, which I'm sure we will.
We definitely will.
I like to have a little prod every now and again.
The Irish will get it, or the Scots next time. Instead of the Welsh.
Well, I have this
enjoy it,
every now and again when we're playing like the Welsh, and they go, "Oh, you're the old enemy. We're going to beat the English," and I'm like, "Well, to be honest, I know for you we're the old enemy, but for Scotland we're the old enemy. For Ireland we're the old enemy. It's a bit like the cheese counter. Take a ticket and get in line because there's so many people that hate us."
Cheese counter.
By the way, the feeling's mutual. I mean, I don't see why hatred of English is not mutually exclusive. We don't like the Scots, we don't like the Welsh, we don't like the Irish.
All right, I'm not saying anything. I'm just sitting here saying nothing.
Yeah, but having said that, you see, I would still want. I love the competition between us and the banter that goes backwards and forwards. Although it goes a bit beyond banter sometimes, but I still want England, Scotland, Wales to win the World Cup. I would still love a Northern Hemisphere side to win the World
If
Cup.
not England, who?
If not
I was
England,
going to
It's not
say,
England
in
who-
what order, though, of those 4?
probably the Irish because they have built so brilliantly, and it would be such a great party. The party will go on all year if they win. That'd be amazing.
All right, let's move on to Pool C then. So Wales, they've already qualified for the quarterfinals. They need 1 point against Georgia to guarantee top spot in Pool C. Fiji need 1 point against Portugal to confirm second place on the head-to-head rule, having already beaten Australia, of course. And the only way Australia and Eddie can make it through to the quarterfinals is if Portugal beats Fiji by more than 7 points and Fiji score 3 tries fewer.
That's not going to happen. I mean, Portugal are a good side, don't get me wrong. I think that they're one of the big surprises of the tournament, don't you think?
Hugely, and entertained us incredibly. But I mean, Eddie Jones has always, everyone's been saying, maybe, England it's written in the stars, England will play Australia. They're not, because Australia have been so disappointing, so poor. I mean, Fiji are going to win the game.
They should, however, if you look at the way they played against Georgia, and they had to pull it out of the bag right at the end, and you think, well, they haven't got the same depth of squad that everybody else is looking at.
Steve, come on. I mean, it's like everyone saying Italy are going to beat New Zealand the other day. I was like,
it's not like that, is it?
The only thing I was
like 98 points later.
We haven't had yet one big shock, have we? Really? I mean, Australia losing to Fiji, not really a shock.
Well, Portugal beating Georgia would have been the shock, wouldn't it? Really?
Yeah,
that was incredible.
No, I don't think there's been
happen,
not the Japan-South Africa shock that we like to have every now and again.
Talking of shocks, I think Wales supporters coming into this tournament were quite critical of Warren Gatland. I think they owe an apology, don't they? They should be very proud of what they've done so far in this tournament. And I don't think they're finished yet either.
Well, we've got a good side of the draw, haven't we, for a start? So, if we do finish top, we play Argentina, and I don't think we've seen Argentina at their best yet during this competition. So then they're in the semis.
They haven't hit their pace at all.
So look, and Gats, he knows how to do a World Cup, right? Does Ron Gatland, and he knows how to turn things around in a short space of time.
And he said this team are going to do something special, and you'd be stupid to not pay attention to Ron Gatland.
It's momentum, isn't it?
I know more players in the Welsh team than I do the England team at the moment.
Yeah. Plus, your captain has got Lions captain written all over him at the moment.
Can I just declare my love for Jack Morgan? He is such a great bloke, Nick, right?
Did you see the speed he came through the line for that opening try when he broke through the line on an inside pass? I thought it was a winger at first, the way he went.
Did you see the 50-22 kick he put in against...
That's unbelievable.
Well,
and he's a great
22-22.
Well.
He tackles also. He broke his nose in about the first few seconds of that game, didn't he? Played what appeared to be 2 tampons sticking out of his
He never comes off the pitch without blood somewhere on his face.
And he's got a nice family. I met his mum and dad.
Yeah, he's gorgeous.
He's a top lad, I have to say. Like Lions captain, do you think?
I think he's going to be a superstar. I think he already is. I mean, he's been, there's about a handful of players in the World Cup, and he's been one that you say, he's in the conversation. He's been brilliant.
Reece Zammit has come into his own again in this World Cup. He's shown what a superstar he is. And the other lad on the other wing, Josh
Adams.
I mean, when you think that he was at Worcester, he picked up a contract at Worcester when nobody was interested in him, and it was only when Worcester picking him up, and then suddenly you got yourself a world-class winger.
Yeah,
isn't it terrifying how you can lose these players and they can go missing? You almost not have any kind of career at all.
Through the net, yeah. But going back to Gats as well, though, because I think that's what he does. You mentioned how great a bloke and how good Jack Morgan is. Like that, I think that was clever with Gats, putting Jack Morgan and Dewi Lake as skippers. They're both great guys. They're both young.
We spoke about this, didn't we? Whether it was the right thing to do.
That's clever, right?
He's very good with people, though, isn't he?
Well, 2 forwards as well, thankfully.
And Reece Zammit, obviously a great player for your club, Gloucester.
He's very good down the road at Gloucester, yeah. He's down the road at Gloucester.
Down the road?
Yeah.
He's not going to commit himself, is he? No.
Great hair as well. Great hair.
Thanks very much. Reece Zammit.
Although not dissimilar to yours, Nick, actually, with a little quiff.
Do you know what? It's the only way I'll get away with a TV career, still having a head of hair at this age. My mate on the building programme looked at me the other day when I had a bad cold, I had a beanie on, and he went, "You'd be nothing without your hair."
Well, Nick doesn't shave his legs like this.
Did you? Does
by the
he
way,
shave his legs?
No, Reece Zammit definitely does. On butter legs like Damien Pinot.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. I thought his little Ronaldo celebration against the Portuguese was a little bit naughty, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I also like the fact, though, he's quite...
I think we need that, though. There's the days where rugby players have got to score a try in a certain way and only wear black and white boots or all that sort of stuff.
And he wears Ronaldo pants as well. Do we all or not?
How do you know that? How is
he
that
said that.
something you know?
He said that. He wears CR7 underwear, doesn't he? I think.
Wow, Steve, that is impressive.
How do I know that?
I don't know. It's not something I've read anywhere. But
so who are we saying? Let's move on from Zammit's pants.
England have already won the group, haven't they?
We're not in the English group.
Are we still on Wales?
No, still on Wales.
Who's topping that? We're going Wales and Fiji. We're going Wales, Fiji.
Yeah,
yes?
Wales, Fiji.
Okay,
Yeah. So who does that mean, Fiji? If that's right,
Fiji will play England.
Yeah.
Fiji will play England.
Wales will play Argentina, probably.
Yeah, and we'll do Fiji this time round.
And England could then face France.
We'll bore them to death.
Semis.
That's what we'll do. We'll bore the Fiji side to death.
Do you care if you get through to the semi and then a final of a World Cup? Would you take the ball fest? That's what I'm trying to ask.
I had this discussion again on social media the other day. For example, when I was complaining about the ref decision not giving penalties on the try line, it's like, well, if that was England, you wouldn't care. I was like, well, I would actually, because it bothers me how we play, and the game is dying.
I've got to be honest though, Nick. South Africa won a World Cup. They ended up battering England, and they looked like they scored really nice tries because Carl Sinclair went off. But I went to that semi-final with Ben Kay, And we'd worked on that incredible game the day before, New Zealand, England. I mean, literally, it was one of the most incredible games of rugby. And ITV gave us the day off the next day. And Ben said, come on, let's have half a glass of white wine for
It's never half a glass of white wine.
I've drunk with Ben K in New Zealand. It's never half a glass.
Let's have half a glass for every box kick.
Oh my God!
That's such a Ben comment.
Right. I mean, that's how stupid he was. And I was even more stupid because I said, that's a wonderful idea. Let's do that. And honestly, there was 64 in the game, I think. It was, I mean, we were taxi at half time. We were toast.
So funny.
In New Zealand, I sat down to to share a bottle of wine with Ben in a bar in New Zealand down in Queenstown, when the gap between the first and second Lions test, between second and third. That's right. And we ended up doing several bottles of wine and watching Alan Wynne-Jones' sister and family dancing on the tables. They're good value, aren't they?
I've never met Alan Wynne's sister, actually. Never met.
Did you get your guitar out?
No. Actually, I auctioned off. Sorry, no.
You've auctioned your guitar off?
No, I auctioned off. I'm a patron of a thing called, run by Rhiannon Mannings, a friend of mine in Cardiff, a thing called To Wish, which is a child bereavement charity. And I turned up at this ball and she said to me, what have you brought to auction? I was like, oh, was I supposed to bring something? It's like, so I auctioned off me never singing in public again and raised 500 quid. So that was quite good. And Amy Wadge, who wrote, do you know Amy Wadge?
Do you know Amy
The
Wadge?
amazing Amy
She is
Wadge.
very, very talented.
But the most successful and talented songwriter that people haven't heard of.
Yeah, she's
so
amazing.
She wrote Thinking Out Loud with Ed Sheeran and songs I wrote with Amy. The album.
incredible.
So you're saying 500 quid gets you in the green room singing with the guitar? Because I'll pay it to the charity to get you back out.
Are you just a shower singer now then? Is that it?
Not even allowed that, actually. Yes, Amy Wadge wrote a song for me and she was one of the people bidding for me never to sing again. So that's
Well, that is pretty impressive that Amy Wadge wrote a song for you.
Well, she wrote a song and I asked her if I could do it because it hadn't been done. And she went, yeah, put it on your album by all means. So I did actually have an original song by Amy Wadge on my album, yeah.
That is impressive.
And an iTunes number one.
And an iTunes number one.
Okay, moving on again. Sorry, Pool D.
Are we still doing the rugby?
We are. So sorry. We're going to get through this. Okay, we're on Pool D. Right, England. They've already confirmed Pool D winners.
Yeah.
And the winner then of Japan, Argentina will qualify to the quarterfinals and runners-up. So who do we reckon?
Japan obviously played okay. I mean, they're an ageing side, aren't they? Really. I mean, I've got to think Argentina, who, as you said, they haven't really turned up, but when they want to play, they're a better side than Japan.
Yeah, agreed.
And they'll win.
You have to wonder whether there's something going on in the camp, though, because they really haven't played very well at all.
And they're normally such a good tournament side, aren't they?
Yeah, and the Japan of 4 years ago might have actually turned them over this time. I'm not sure, like you say, that this Japan is good enough to do it. No. But if there's one match-up coming up that you might think might be a turnover, I could see Japan just about turning over Argentina because they've been playing so badly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because they are normally good at a World Cup, aren't they?
Yeah, they really turn up.
Yeah. Okay. So we're saying we don't really know then who the runners up in that group are. You two are. Nick is the only one that's answering me at the moment.
I'm more interested in the songs now. Let's move on.
Lawrence has switched off from the rugby now. He's glazed over. Okay, well, there we go. Then we got through the pools. Okay, well, it's going to be exciting weekend anyway, isn't it?
Very exciting.
Very exciting, yeah.
So, are you off to...
I'm going back to Nantes on Thursday, to do Wales-Georgia.
Catching him up on the air miles, aren't you?
No one can catch him.
Do they have rail miles?
No, they don't, but the air miles are good because I have to fly to all these places. So the air miles have been good, although I didn't collect them for about the first 18 months of me doing this.
Before we sign off the show, just where are you heading the next 3 or 4 weeks? Make us all jealous with your railway.
So I've got a short hop over to Ireland to do some archaeology because that's another little interesting one. I like a bit of archaeology and I'm going to dig up some Roman stuff in Ireland.
Yeah, you did that in Peru, didn't you?
Yeah, I did some lovely archaeology in Peru, some pre-Inca stuff which was dug up as well. And I've just done some in Split as well. And then they're digging up a new sort of Pompeii just outside Split, which is an amazing thing. So I do a little bit of that and then I'm off to Cuba and then on to Patagonia. So travelling through Patagonia.
I told you before, I've always wanted to go to Patagonia.
Well, a big Welsh contingent there. It's one of the languages
massive.
there.
Yeah, I'll teach you some words before you go.
I've been taught for you on social media, Riz, but I'm not sure I can use any of them.
Probably best not use those ones.
When we had a BT Sport night out, I think I woke up in Patagonia.
Yeah.
I'm sure Chile will go to many places after a BT
Sarah,
Sport night
please,
out,
please,
Lawrence.
don't
Could
be
be
like
any
that.
country.
Chile have got a side though, haven't they? Chile play a bit of rugby now as well. Obviously Argentina, so I might take a rugby ball with me and spin a rugby ball around down there.
Good.
Oh, it's been so good to have you on, Nick.
Yeah,
thank you for
Enjoyed it
coming
very
on.
much.
It's
Thank
been
you.
so
To
good.
finish, you need to serenade Sarah, really, don't you? Have you got a song for her to sign out? Sign out? No?
I don't know.
No, Lawrence is going to pay you 500 quid,
It's
Nick.
going to
So
cost the charity going to make some money, and we're going to get him back in the green room. I mean, the last time we had singing in the green room, I think it was Ronan Keating.
It was
he
Ronan
had to use
Keating,
a
was.
mobile phone to get the words of Fields of Athenry. It was beautiful.
Oh, no.
Yes.
I used to love Ronan. I used to love Boyzone.
Ronan's a top man, but Willie Munnerswood.
Who was
He's
it?
a
Was in
plastic
that?
putty.
Oh, I know who was in it. Jamie Dornan. And I was chatting to him because I got a thing that I was going to do in LA with a rugby thing in LA, a big charity thing that I was setting up. And I was like, I need some actors to come along. And he went, yeah, put me down for it. I said, well, I'll contact your agent. He went, no. He said, like, give us your phone. I'll put my number in it. And as he was putting the number in, suddenly realised there were about 30 women craning around the back.
all taking photos of the number.
Trying to see Jamie Dornan's number. He lives just up the road from me as well, actually.
He was a guest
top
on.
lad.
Yeah, he was a guest on another. He loves his rugby. He really
God,
does.
yeah.
Oh well, we'll save the singing debut. You're all
Yes,
welcome.
we
You're
will
welcome
save. Come back
into
and
the
do it
green room.
again
Nick,
with your guitar.
We wish you all the very best with your second series now on the railways.
Thank you very much.
Keep tweeting about the Welsh.
I like to tweet about them all. I think that's the whole point of rugby, is to wind each other up, isn't it? That's all part of the joy of it.
Absolutely. Well, for now, my thanks to Nick, to Sarah, and of course to Steve. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week for more rugby action.
The Evening Standard Rugby Podcast with Lawrence Dallaglio.